Thank you, everyone, for watching our very first Hangouts on air that I am calling The Truth About Boston. My name is Matt, and I'm on the marketing team at FlipKey.com. Shameless plug, over 300,000 vacation rentals in 179 countries at FlipKey.com. Even better content at FlipKey.com/blog. So our first Hangout on air of the series is going to be our hometown in Boston, Massachusetts. We're going to give you the truth about Boston. There's a lot of material out there for any vacation destination that you choose, but we're going to cut through the bull and make sure you get the truth about what to do when you come to Boston. So we have a number of FlipKey employees joining us today on the Hangout, and I'd like them to introduce themselves. So we will start with Vanessa.
Hi all, my name is Vanessa, and I manage inbound customer service.
Next up is Tess.
Hi guys, my name is Tess, and I am the PR manager here at FlipKey.
We also have Juliana.
Hello, my name is Juliana, and I am managing the recruiting team here at FlipKey.
Jen.
Hey, my name is Jen, and I'm on the product team at FlipKey.
And Connor. Connor is on mute.
I was listening to directions too closely. Hey everybody, my name's Connor. I'm in account management and sales.
Beautiful. Okay, so that's our panel for today, and we can just jump right into our discussion. The first question I have for everyone is, you know about the famous areas in Boston, and we will talk about a number of them today, but what I want to know is, what is your favorite secret spot? Let's give away some of the top secrets happening in Boston. And Connor, I'm going to toss this one to you first. What do you have?
Sure, so one of my favorite secret spots is actually Fort Point Channel over in the Seaport. You get a lot of stuff over there. You have the Harpoon Brewery if you're going over and you're trying to take a tour or just trying to grab a beer and a pretzel. They have a great beer hall to check out over there. Another great thing over there is actually the Institute of Contemporary Art. It's one of the top 5 contemporary architecture museums in the U.S., and it also has one of the best views of the entire city.
Wonderful. Jen, what do you have for top secret spot?
Well, not so much of a secret, but it's just my personal favorite. I love going over to Cambridge, especially around the Harvard area. I just love all the winding little streets and the cool, funky little bookstores. There are a lot of used bookshops and some great little kind of hole-in-the-wall cafes and bars to check out. So that's one of my favorites.
Juliana, what do you think?
My favorite secret spot is Castle Island in South Boston. It has about 22 acres of beach, bike, play areas, and amazing views.
And it's a great place to watch dogs for dog lovers. Tess, what do you think?
My favorite place, being a resident of Charlestown, is Pier 6, formerly Tavern on the Water. It's a great spot to watch the sailing races in the summer, have a nice drink, watch the sunset, just get a beautiful view of the Boston Harbor.
Vanessa, you're last.
Not least. One of my favorite secret places in Boston is Post Office Square. It's a great place to visit in the summertime during lunch hours. You see everyone in their business suits kind of hanging out on the park, listening to a harp player, sitting on cushions. They offer free books, which you can kind of peruse through and read, or you can bring your own. It's a really cool part of Boston that not many tourists know about.
Fantastic. Good first round, everyone. I feel like everybody's warmed up. We're going to really dig into things with the second question. Everybody knows that there is so much history here in Boston. It's probably the #1 reason that people come to visit us in this city, besides the sports. So what I want to talk about is, tell me your favorite historic site, and why would anyone outside of Boston care about it? What do you think? Vanessa, I have it on you still. Tell me what you're thinking for that one.
I love Harvard Square. I think that I love Harvard Square. It reminds me of Oxford. and the old universities out in the UK. It has a lot of charm. Some of our presidents have gone there. You can sit on the lawn, or you can walk around in the little shops, go to used bookstores. But the campus itself is beautiful, and they often have tours as well.
Tess, what do you think?
So I'm going to pick another bar, and I am going to pick the Warren Tavern because even though it's a bar, it's extremely historic. Paul Revere used to have pints there after a long day with the other soldiers, and it's right a couple blocks from the monument, and it's a great old bar, probably one of the first bars in the Boston area.
And that is also in your town of Charleston.
Yes.
Yeah, of course. Juliana, you're up.
I would have to say my favorite historic place is Old North Church in the North End. It was built in 1723, and it's the oldest active church in town.
And that is also where Paul Revere hung his lanterns, right, during the Midnight Ride?
He did.
Ah. Jen, what do you have for your favorite historic site? Skipping this one? She's abstaining. Okay. Connor, what do you got?
So one of my favorite historical spots, although it's not as big as Central Park in New York, is the Boston Common. It's gorgeous in the summertime. It's centrally located in, it's around everything. It's actually the start of the Freedom Trail, and many people don't know it, but it's actually one of the largest mass graveyards from the Revolutionary War in Boston. So for all you scare lovers out there, come around Halloween and you might catch something.
Very, very nice. Actually, I'll jump in on this one. My favorite historical spot is Bunker Hill Monument, 221 feet tall, commemorates the Battle of Bunker Hill, one of the bloodiest battles during the Siege of Boston. What's really cool is during this battle was the original "Don't fire until you see the whites of their eyes" phrase. The phrase was attributed to 2 or 3 guys. Nobody really knows who said it first, but it was said sometime during that battle. So just a quick fact for everyone. So that wraps up the historic spots. So question 3, guys, best restaurants and bars. Keep in mind that not everyone is single, not everyone is young, and not everyone is old. Let's sort of mix it up a little bit. Jen, I'll start with you. Best bars.
Sure. So one of my favorites, especially for after-work cocktails or a nice, fresh, healthy meal, is Trade. It's just got a really nice, buzzy vibe to it. The service is great, and the food can't be beat, and the menu changes very frequently depending on the season. And I also love Island Creek Oyster Bar. Also has a great atmosphere, fantastic fresh seafood, and of course, and just a huge array of oysters to choose from. So those are 2 of my favorites.
And Trade is right next to South Station, which is the biggest train and bus station in the city, right?
That's right. That's right. So very convenient to just hop in and hop out of the city, get a great meal, and you're on your way.
Perfect. I love Trade as well. Connor, what do you have for this one?
So for restaurants, everyone knows North End, how they're famous for food, but kind of one of the big things over there is finding the hidden gems. There's this little restaurant called Panza that's actually right on Hanover Street. You walk in the place, it's very small. There's probably 10, 12 tables, so extremely intimate. Service is really great. Don't get intimidated if there's a bunch of people in the doorway. Stand there and wait. You'll only be waiting 20, 25 minutes. The great part about it is the food is outstanding, and you're only going to be paying around $14 to $16 for an entree. So it's definitely a super cheap option in the North End. For bars, there's this bar called Drink over in the Seaport. They don't have, it's unique, they don't have a sign over it. It's kind of down underneath in a basement. But you walk in, they don't have a drink menu. You walk up, they have great bartenders telling you like whiskey and citrus, and they'll make you a whiskey drink with citrus. It's a really, really cool spot to go before dinner. That's
very cool. I love Drink as well. Vanessa, what do you have?
I love Parish Cafe in Back Bay. It's centrally located right by the T. It also has a lot of locals as well as some tourists. The bartenders are really friendly. They've worked there for years. No one knows beer better. You go in and you tell them you want to try something new, or if you have something that you already like. They have a ton of stuff on tap. They also have bottles of beer from all over the world. Plus, they have sandwiches made from famous chefs and very popular restaurants all over the city. So it's sort of a way to tour some of the best food in Boston without going too far.
I love it. Tess, what do you think?
I love Masa in the South End. They have really good eats, nice small plates, yummy margaritas, and they actually do a great brunch on Sunday. If folks are looking for a Sunday fun day, it's a great spot to go and get a yummy breakfast, super affordable. It's just always a lively place. And then I also love the 21st Amendment. It's super historical, and you might see some law students in there getting a drink after a long day of studying. It's in Beacon Hill, which is a beautiful area of Boston,
Yep.
and it's just a great historic spot.
Juliana?
My favorite restaurant is Del Frisco's on the Seaport, so right on the water, beautiful, newer in Boston. And my favorite bar is also, I'll second, drink. You can't get a better drink over there.
Del Frisco's is a good spot if you're looking to drop a lot of cash. I gotta say. I know this is not a popular opinion, but if you're single and you're looking to really party, you're going to go to Faneuil Hall, which is one of the biggest tourist traps in Boston as well. For older couples, I suggest going to Long Wharf Marriott or really any hotel bar in Boston. They really make them extremely luxurious and comfortable. Big fan of that. And if you're looking to drink your way through history, as Tess gave us an example earlier, I definitely recommend the Black Rose or the Green Dragon. So that wraps up bars and restaurants. Q4 for everyone is, what is the best season to visit Boston and why? And I guess, Vanessa, I'll start with you on this one.
Spring, definitely spring. The city comes alive after months of hibernating. We have very cold winters in New England, especially in Boston. So when the weather gets nice, people want to come out and play. The Boston Marathon, which is the most prestigious marathon in the world, is in the spring. Boston Commons and the public gardens are blooming with flowers, people walking their dogs, taking runs, playing games. Often you'll catch a game of Quidditch, sometimes in the Boston Common, which is really interesting, but definitely spring.
Tess, over to you.
I love the fall in Boston. The leaves are changing, everyone's outside and big comfy sweaters and starting to bundle up for the winter, but it's still nice enough to be outside. And there's so many fun things to do. You can take a trolley tour of the ghosts and graveyards and go visit the graveyard up in the North End and learn about the Boston Common, and there's just a lot of fun things going on in the fall. It's very festive.
Connor, I know you agree with Tess.
I do agree with Tess, so I think the fall is fantastic. One of the big things is, too, that summer is one of the biggest tourist times around Boston. So in the fall, you can tend to get vacation rentals, hotels at a cheaper price, which is great. So there are a lot of deals going around. You can catch the end of the Red Sox season if they're lucky enough to make the playoffs, maybe a playoff game. And then if you're feeling really adventurous, take an hour-and-a-half drive up to New Hampshire, and you can see the foliage up there as well.
Jen, I believe you're also in agreement with these two.
Yeah, I have to admit I'm a big fan of the fall. Also for all the reasons that Tess and Connor mentioned, and also because I mean Boston is famously such a student university town, and in the fall you just get this like huge injection of energy and like excitement from all the students coming back or coming to Boston for the first time. So it sort of just adds this extra element of people in the streets and students coming back, going to school. So it is just, I think, my best season for sure.
Yep. Juliana?
Summertime is my favorite season. There's so much to do. Everyone loves to be out when it's nice and warm. You can hit the beaches, whether it's on, Cape Cod or just even in South Boston at Castle Island. There's the tall ships, there's whale watching. It's just great to be running around and enjoying life.
Uh-huh. I definitely think we can all agree that nothing beats a beautiful day in Boston. In the summertime, it can get a little sweltering at times where it's just very, very hot. But if you catch it at the right time in spring or fall, it's the most gorgeous city. Is there any redeeming qualities for Boston in winter? Can anyone speak up for winter, or should we just recommend that nobody goes?
I think Christmas time around the holidays is super festive. There's definitely like a huge vibrant energy in the air. It's crowded, especially around the tourist trap areas, but there is definitely like a very strong holiday spirit. After New Year's, I'd say stay away till spring.
I completely agree, Jen. That's a good point. Okay, so question 5. I'm on a budget. How do you save when visiting Boston? Juliana, I'll start with you for this one.
Definitely the aquarium. You can go see the seals for free. You can also go to the Sam Adams Brewery and get a free tour of that, along with the Boston Public Gardens and the Museum of Fine Arts.
Tess, what do you think?
Any of the museums are great. The Museum of Fine Arts is beautiful. There's always a different exhibit going on, and most of the museums just require a donation. So it's a great way, especially if you're with kids, to take them on little excursions where they can learn as well. And the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum is another wonderful one. It used to be her home. So all of the museums in Boston, they each have something special to offer, and they're really not expensive.
Mm-hmm. Vanessa?
I say the Freedom Trail. Boston is a walking city, and the Freedom Trail is outlined on the streets, on the sidewalks in like a red brick. So you can kind of just grab a pamphlet or a book, walk to each of the historical sites, learn a little bit about it, and then keep moving. Anytime you're hungry for lunch or need to get a drink or an ice cream, you can absolutely do so. We'll jump right back on the Freedom Trail. I would also recommend, if you're not going to go to a Red Sox game, to at least check out the area. There's a ton of little bars, restaurants, sports are playing. The area is generally very vibrant, a lot of souvenir shops for some Red Sox gear. You can also go to Bleacher Bar. The bar itself is pretty tiny. It actually looks right onto Fenway Field. I think it used to be a closet, so you get a really great view of a piece of Fenway without having to pay for a ticket. The other thing I would recommend is Faneuil Hall. They have a lot of street performers who are actually pretty great. You can kind of walk around and take in the vivaciousness and the life of the city with some free entertainment.
Connor?
So we are all employees in FlipKey. Going off of shameless plug number 2 from what Matt said, stay in a vacation rental. I'm also going to agree with Vanessa. The Freedom Trail is great. Starts at the Common. You can walk around the entire city of Boston, see all the historical sites. Like she said, jump in, grab a bite to eat. Another great spot if you're looking to go off the beaten path is actually over in Dorchester, Quincy area, over on the waterfront. It's called Boston Winery. You go into this place, you pay $10. They'll give you a tour of the winery, and they'll give you 4 or 5 tokens if you'd like to have a few glasses while you're there. Definitely a cool spot. They have a great Italian restaurant next to it if you want to check it out.
Right on. Jen?
My tip for saving some money in Boston is to go eat in Chinatown. In Chinatown, not only is there just a great atmosphere, there's tons of hustle and bustle. I feel like kind of you stepped into a different world, but the restaurants are fantastic and cheap. I mean, you can find an endless variety of great Chinese, Vietnamese, Japanese restaurants and many more. And you can feed a family of 4 for under $20 and everybody will walk out really happy. So. Plus, you're also really centrally located. You're right near the financial district. You're not too far from Faneuil Hall and all the other sites and neighborhoods that we've all been mentioning. So,
my advice can definitely help you out after a huge meal in Chinatown, and that is to walk. As someone said earlier, Boston is the most walkable city. Strolling around Beacon Hill, which is where all of the mansions from the 1700s and 1800s still are, that is one of the most amazing sights you can see in the neighborhood. And also, I've been living in the North End, which used to be Little Italy, but now it's full of all types of people. And walking around the North End engages all 5 of your senses, especially smell, with the bread and the pasta and the prosciutto. All this stuff is delicious. So take a walk around the North End if you can. So now we're going to switch into the lightning round. Everyone's going to get their own question. Connor, I'm going to start with you. I consider you, along with myself, Boston sports expert.
Appreciate that.
Is is Fenway Park a must-see venue?
Yeah, I mean, you hear a lot about it. At the end of the day, if you come to Boston in the summer and you're from out of town, you don't go to Fenway, you're probably going to regret it. I would say check it out going off of the theme of budget. Like I said before, you don't necessarily have to go to a Red Sox game. They can get pretty pricey. You can find some good deals during the week, especially for tickets. But if you're not looking to go to a game, you can actually go on one of these tours that they have. It's around $10. You get to go and walk around Fenway Park. They'll take you inside the Green Monster, which is famous at Fenway Park. So you get to go right in there and actually see where Manny Ramirez jumped out of the scoreboard, which is always nice. That was 5-6 years ago. If you're looking for some other sports around Boston during the summertime, you can actually go, if you're into lacrosse, the Boston Cannons are a professional lacrosse team, and they actually play at the old Harvard Stadium, the football stadium where Harvard-Yale plays, has been playing there for 110, 120 years. And kind of going off what Vanessa said earlier, bounce over to Harvard Square after. It's a quarter-mile walk right down the street. So I'd definitely go over there and check that out as well.
Yeah, I have to agree with you, Connor. If money is not really an object, you're willing to spend a little bit, a summer night at Fenway cannot be beat. And just to be super clear for those that don't live in Boston, the Patriots play in Foxborough, which is about 45 minutes outside of the city, so don't expect to be coming to any Patriots games if you're in Boston. Thanks for your answer there, Connor. The next question is for Tess. I consider Tess a expert in the small towns outside of Boston. We've mentioned a number of them already, Cambridge, Charlestown, and we're going to talk about Alston, Brighton. Tess, what do you have recommendations for people that don't want to be downtown the whole time?
Yeah, I think Cambridge is a great place to visit. There's all the academia over there between MIT and Harvard. Walking around Harvard Square, you really get a feel for all the students and the bookstores and just hanging out in the park. It's a great place to be. It's very inspiring. You can go for a run in that area as well, and it's beautiful. Charlestown, I obviously live there, so I have plenty to say about that, but you can climb the monument, which is really fun. When you get to the top, you get a beautiful view of the city, and you can go down to the Navy Yard, tour the Constitution. The Navy Yard's a really cool place. It's actually still a working Navy Yard. And then Southie's another fun spot. Castle Island, which Juliana mentioned earlier, is beautiful. People are always walking their dogs around there. You can check out the old castle. The airplanes are flying overhead. So I encourage people to definitely take a step outside of the immediate Boston area as well, because there's so many fun things to explore. Each of the little areas has their own personality.
And it's actually pretty easy to get to by either walking to those areas or taking the T, which is our subway.
Yeah, or even the water taxis.
That'd be fun.
Yeah.
Juliana, you're next up with your own question. It's date night in Boston. What do you do?
Well, as you can tell, I love being by the water, so the Seaport is my favorite place, and I think the most romantic place. So heading to legal roof deck, sitting outside with a glass of wine, or heading over to Tesmacall and having some margaritas on their deck, and then from there kind of heading over to the Bank of America Pavilion for a concert that they usually have throughout the spring and summer months.
Will you take me on that date?
You got it.
Fantastic. Vanessa, if you were to stay in a vacation rental in Boston, what neighborhood would you stay in and why?
That's a great question. There's a few neighborhoods I would stay in. The North End, which is Little Italy of Boston, is a great place. Has 24-hour bakeries and delis. You can actually, there's one called Bova's, which you can either get sliced sandwiches, meat from, or you can get a cannoli or pizza, whatever you want at whatever hour you want. It's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They also have some other places like the White Hen, I believe, that's open. So that's a great place if you're arriving late or coming home early after a night out. Back Bay, I also highly recommend as a place to stay. It's very centrally located. Usually you can walk to wherever place you need to go within the city, but it's also located on the subway lines. The other awesome place to stay would be Beacon Hill, traditionally known as a very wealthy area. Has a lot of cute shops and a lot of charm, small streets that you can kind of walk through. I do not recommend staying in Southie if you're not really familiar with the area, although it's beautiful to visit. There's a lot of things to do. It's not very accessible by public transportation. Same with the South End. There are a lot of restaurants and places to eat, but it's not really on public transportation.
I hate to disappoint you, Vanessa, but the White Hen Pantry is no more. It is a 7-Eleven.
That's really sad.
I know. It's another chain. What a shame. Okay. Thank you, Vanessa. Now, Jen, as the resident mom on our panel, tell us what you can do in Boston with kids.
Sure. So I'd say for younger kids, I love the public gardens. That's right next to the Boston Common. It's absolutely gorgeous in spring, summer, and fall. There are always tons of people around, especially on the weekends. There's a huge duck pond. I mean, if anyone has little kids, they know that feeding the ducks can take up hours of your afternoon. And there are also often free concerts on the weekends. There's always something going on. And there's also the Frog Pond, which is kind of like a splash park for kids to run around in. For older kids, I would say for sure the Children's Museum and the aquarium. They're both great. The only thing I would say is they get crowded quickly, so especially on weekends, try to get there as early in the morning as possible to avoid the lines. And if you're going to go a couple of times, it makes sense to either purchase a membership or to try to get passes so that you can beat the lines and just zoom right in.
Cool. All right, moving on to a question for everyone. You have 24 hours in Boston. What do you do? Tess, we'll start with you.
Definitely walk the Freedom Trail. It gives folks a chance to see all the different parts of Boston and find out the history of our city. I think it's a great thing to do, especially when it's a beautiful day out, and like we've said, Boston is totally walkable, so it's a nice way to sort of hit all the big historic spots if you're only here for 24 hours.
Connor, one day. What are you up to?
One day. That's tough, buddy. I love this city. Tough to fit everything I love to do in one day. But if I'm going to choose 24 hours, I think I would start in the Back Bay, and like the Copley area in Boylston Street. Walk up and down, maybe shoot over to Newbury Street. It's very touristy and gets packed during the summer, but it's still a really cool spot. If you're into fashion, next to Newbury Street, there's this little store called Bodega. It looks like a convenience store. You walk in, there's a little soda machine in back. You walk up to it, and the door slides back, and it's this huge fashion store with all these unique kind of trendy clothes that you wouldn't find anywhere else. If you're into shoes, it's a great place to go. But yeah, it's really, really cool. Just search Bodega, and you'll probably get directions to it. There's no sign. But then I would head over to the Kenmore area, have dinner at a great restaurant called Eastern Standard, and then going along the Red Sox scene, I'd jump into Fenway Park and go for a game.
Do you do a lot of bodega and boutique shopping, Connor, in your free time?
I don't. I wish I did more, but it's still a very cool spot to go and walk around.
Well, you can start today if you wanted to.
I just may.
Juliana?
I agree with both Connor and Tess. Definitely walk the Freedom Trail. Head over to Newbury Street. There's some great shopping and restaurants there. I'd also hit Fenway Park. And then last but not least, I'd hop on a duck tour and peruse the city of Boston. You can't get any better than that.
Vanessa?
I definitely agree with Juliana about the duck tour. I've taken multiple duck tours. I love them. The operator of the duck tour has their own sort of unique stories about what they find interesting about Boston. You'll learn a lot. I also recommend going to Top of the Hub, which is a restaurant in the Prudential Strand Center where you can go for a drink. You get great views of the city. A lot of times they have a piano bar or jazz player up there for some entertainment. If you like to shop, I would also recommend Newbury Street. They have a lot of shopping there. If you like to eat, I would recommend Little Italy or the North End, and definitely the Seaport, especially during the warmer months.
I have to third or fourth the duck tour idea. I'm a huge fan of the duck tours. Also, if you had 24 hours, there's hop-on, hop-off trolley tours happening all day long. It's a fantastic way to see the entire city. So now we spent the whole time talking about the good things. I want to talk about the bad things. Let's get real. Let's talk about the #1 tourist trap that you would like to advise travelers to not visit. And Vanessa, I'll actually toss it back to you to start on this one.
That's a tough question. I would say that all the tourist traps are a part of the city. So Faneuil Hall, that's definitely a tourist trap, but it gives the city some charm. Same with Newbury Street. It's filled with tourists kind of doing some shopping. The other interesting thing that I noticed is everyone that comes to Boston wants, a lobster roll or a clam chowder. If you're going for a lobster roll or you want some good seafood, don't go in Faneuil Hall or on Newbury Street. Definitely check out Neptune Oyster. It's the best.
Juliana?
I would also agree with Vanessa and say kind of stay out of the Faneuil Hall, Quincy Market area, specifically Cheers. I think that's a little overplayed. And then I'd also say the swan boats. I feel like you can just walk around the pond versus having to get on a swan and getting pedaled by somebody.
Connor?
So it's kind of running theme, but I'm going to have to say Faneuil Hall and Quincy Market. And it's not all bad. I mean, going over there is some cool little restaurants and shops, and I've spent my fair amount of time at Ned Devine's and Clark's over the years. But, it's definitely kind of the stigma is as the tourist trap in Boston, so I would have to go with that.
Jen, if I had to guess what you're going to say.
I will qualify it. I will say that I also agree that Quincy Market and Faneuil Hall can be crazy crowded, specifically, though, around Christmas time. I got stuck there once during Christmas time. It must have been just a couple of days before the actual holiday, and it was kind of a nightmare. So I think it can be fun. I think especially in the summertime when people are outside wandering around, it's not that bad, but certainly in the weeks leading up to Christmas, I would stay away.
You don't need to hear from me. I was going to say the same thing. Just stay out of there. Okay, so we just talked about tourist trap. I want to talk about, there's always big events happening in Boston. As we know, I'd like to talk about what one event would you recommend a traveler visit Boston for? Connor, I'll start with you.
So I think the coolest event in Boston is the 4th of July. One kind of unique thing about the fireworks show in Boston is that the barge is so extremely close. If you can go over on the Charles area called the Esplanade, that's a little stage. They have a show there over the course of the night, and I would say the barge is 50 to 100 yards away from you. So it's safe, don't worry, but it's a great spot to kind of go and see the fireworks show. Everyone's out and about that night. It always tends to be an absolutely gorgeous night. So I would definitely recommend coming for the 4th of July. Another cool event is actually, I mentioned Harpoon earlier. They have what they call Harpoon Fest. They have 3 or 4 of these over the course of the year. It's kind of just a festival. You go, they open up the back of the brewery, this big open area. It's a great thing to go to during the summer or even in the fall for Oktoberfest.
If I can plug vacation rentals real quick, if you could find a vacation rental in Boston with roof deck access on the 4th of July, that's a home run. You can't beat that. So if I could recommend anyone 4th of July, find a vacation rental with a roof deck access, that would be awesome. Okay, Vanessa, tossing it to you.
I would say the tall ships are pretty interesting. Those come every summer. They're docked on the wharf. It's a great place to kind of walk around and look at some of the historic ships in a very historic city. And then also kind of just grab some food or something to drink afterwards at a happy hour at the landing. The landing specifically is a great spot right on the water. I would say if you like to eat and you're a foodie, Boston's the place for you. Food is very affordable in Boston, unlike some of the neighboring cities like New York City. You can definitely find an affordable priced meal that's, just as good, if not better, than some of the other cities nearby. Also, Red Sox fans or any really baseball fan who can appreciate an old baseball stadium, Fenway is very old and very historical.
Tess, one event.
Definitely Patriots Day. It's such a special day for the city. Obviously, it's historic, but it's when Boston really gets together, and a lot of people have the day off, and they go and see the marathon, and it's just an exciting, great day to be in Boston. All the Bostonians are so proud to be from Boston. So much going on, and just a great time to visit.
Juliana?
I agree with Tess. I think my favorite event every year is going and being part of the Boston Marathon, cheering on so many amazing people from all over the world. And the Red Sox are playing that day, and everyone's in such a great mood. It's typically beautiful out, so it's a nice day to be in the sun in Boston.
Jen?
An event that many people might not know about is actually, it's called the Taste of the Nation in Boston, and it's an annual event. It's for a great cause, and for a really reasonable price, you can have access to some of the very best restaurants in Boston. We've all been saying how Boston's an amazing food town, and some of the, many dozens of the best restaurants in the city come together, and food trucks, by the way, and offer, bites of the absolute best food you can imagine. Not to mention pourings of wine, beer, and cocktails. There's a band, there's a DJ, and it's just a really fun, festive get-together, which, as I said, goes to a really great cause. So I highly recommend it.
Sounds good. My recommendation would be a concert at Fenway Park. They just started doing this when the new ownership group took over, and they've had so many famous names. This summer, I believe, is Zac Brown Band and Billy Joel, actually. And if you can catch a summer concert at Fenway Park, it is unlike anything. It's unlike any other venue that you can actually listen to music. It's fantastic. So that brings us to our last question, everyone. I want a 10-second elevator pitch for Boston. Sum it up. Why would anyone want to visit? Connor, you're up.
All right, so 10-second elevator pitch. Walkability, 1-to-1 ratio of bars to historical sites. So a little tagline could be Boston taking drinking tour of history.
Fantastic. Someone put that on a bumper sticker. That's awesome. Jen?
I would say, charming neighborhoods, an energetic vibe, and fantastic food. What's not to love?
Juliana?
I would say Boston is clean, it's safe, there's tons of great jobs, amazing prestigious colleges, a common culture. I mean, what more can you ask for?
Tess?
One of the most historic cities in the country with a whole lot of personality.
Tess, I think we're losing you. Can you say that again?
Oh, you couldn't hear it?
Yeah.
I said, okay, one of the most historic cities in the country with a whole lot of personality.
Vanessa?
Boston is a local city. Many people that live in Boston have grown up in the area, and they have obviously been a testament to how great a city this is. They've stayed.
I don't think I can say it any better than you guys. I just want to thank everyone for participating. I want to thank you at home or wherever you are for watching. Please come back to FlipKey.com and book a vacation rental as soon as you want. Come read the blog as often as you want to, FlipKey.com/blog. Follow us on social media. We're everywhere. And come back and watch one of our next videos where we tackle another location in the world. So thanks again. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.